Hey guys, what's up? This is Jack Low Poly here to break down my new track Afters, out now on Mousetrap's We Are Friends Volume 9 compilation. If you haven't heard the track already, take a moment, pause the video, stream it, and I will go ahead and jump right into things after you are done. You can also follow me on socials, which are tagged below for more content, more music, more funny tweets, all the above. So just jumping right into things, we've got the drop patches over here. The first one and the one that really drives this song is this noise bass I made in Harmor. Harmor, if you don't know, is an additive synthesis plugin which builds everything out of sine waves, just raw harmonics that go and allow you a high degree of control for either noisy patches like this or really technical ones like if you're doing neuro sound design. Without all the post-processing, it sounds like this. It's got a little less bite, a little less fun, a little less character. You can see there's a low pass, you can see there's a bit of a phase in the middle, and the effects boil down to a lot of this log distortion and some compression to keep everything in line. Other than that, it's just two saw waves that are panned together to create a Reese, but in this case it's just being driven far beyond the point of being a Reese. The first thing I do is pull out all that 300 mud. That 300 hertz is not good. There's no other way to put it for a sound like this. It's just gonna really drag everything down, muddy it up, and the first thing to do is just get it out of there. And it's already so much better, you can hear. After that, there's some OTT distortion to fill it out, keep it in line. Beyond that, there's a reverb effect in parallel that is high passed before it to give it just a little bit more of a sense of place. From there, erosion for more distortion, multipass to widen the highs a little bit, and then an EQ to give it closer to the desired tone, and a multiband just to make sure it's really not going too hard. You can see what I did with the multipass here, nothing too crazy. Excuse my CPU there. And beyond that, we have a very classic patch. Sounds like this. It's just two sine waves AM together. There's a sub underneath too. I put a little bit of erosion on it to give it some more character. There's an EQ that knocks those frustrating 400 harmonics down a peg and brings out the fundamental. This is a really classic patch. You can hear it in about 1 million different songs, and for this track I wrote it in about 3 days, and I was really trying to get the idea out as fast as possible, so I just jumped on this virtual riot patch. And yeah, it sounds good. There's some subtle modulation to keep things moving, and other than that, not too much to say here. Very classic sound, very timeless sound, and it fits the sort of call and response feel that I wanted. I also designed this patch right here, which is more sine waves. I wanted to keep the palette really limited, really focused for this track, and because of that, I built on that sort of idea of just a really sort of simply modulated sine wave. This one also has a lot of pitch on it. There's a vibrato effect and a descending effect. Gives it that sort of disorienting feel while also keeping the sound palette tight and focused. And finally, there's a little melodic that I just thought filled out the synth section very nicely. The drums were super fun to do on this track, and I really like them because they, if you ask me, they don't really sound classically good. I played them straight in off a little sampler I bought the other day, and they're weird. They don't sound right a lot of the time, especially, you know, check out this kick without any sort of effects on it, any sort of cleanup. That's honestly, that's not a good sound, which is fun because it shouldn't work, but I think it really adds a sort of pocket tonally. It sort of fills things out. They're swung pretty decently. I played everything in and then quantized it by maybe like 50, 60, 70%. That keeps swing without it being too off the grid. And I also layered the snare, so you've got like a low mid snare and a high mid snare. Together they fill out a really nice snare, and you get a drum section. Synths are sidechained a little bit. You're in business, man. And like I said, this song is at its core simple, which means that what you can hear is simple. I think it's important to have a really limited set of focuses when you're writing a track, but at the same time, you need all that complexity still, or else things will sound boring. So as you can see, I've got a whole bunch of percussion and atmospherics, downlifters, risers, all shoved way down in the mix, like this guy here, for example. And there's some simple modulation too, because this helps keep it interesting. It's just ear candy. But you need this stuff or else things sound really flat and uninteresting, and you might not be able to place why, but atmospherics are super important. There's a breath here, another downlifter, there's a bit of percussion here that's just pitched down ridiculously far. It goes from a snare to whatever you would call that. And these are the type of things that really help fill a track out, even if you don't notice them. I think they're as important, or maybe even more important, than the actual synth layer itself. Beyond that, the intro has about 1 million of these little, you know, atmospherics, downlifters, everything. The core synth section here is built off the Repro 9, which is a phenomenal emulation of the Prophet synthesizer. Excuse me, Repro 5, not the Repro 9, but it's a phenomenal emulation of the Prophet 5, which is just a gorgeous classic synth. I got some nice ravey tones out of it for this one. I used some presets. It's a nice bell which comes in slowly during the intro and just sort of teases you into the track and lets that first melody flourish before going crazy. There's modulation, but more importantly, there's new elements being introduced that keep your ears occupied without being super obnoxious. And, you know, chord voicings come in, effects, kicks, snares, percussion, and, again, I think these atmospherics and these things that give it a sense of place, the stuff you see over here, they're about as important as the track itself. A lot of these in this case are riser elements, things like snares, but they all serve the same function. Beyond that, I have a few effect sends. I know I keep harping on the sense of place and the sense of feeling to it, but these are crucial for that. Valhalla Vintage Verb, gorgeous reverb, really, really classic tones if you want, or really modern tones. In this case, I've got a pretty large concert hall, and a lot of my track elements are getting sent to this A bus with it on it. There's also a delay on the B bus, and that gets a little bit too. You can see here how I'm routing everything. Nothing too complex going on. The track also isn't organized as well as it could be, but it's all the little things that add up to give it that sense of place, and the reverb is definitely one of the larger components. The intro has a little bit of Foley I recorded, me talking with my girlfriend. I'm not going to play it because I am, it's personal, you know, you can hear it in the track. There's also a tape effect, which gives it a really solid sense of motion and almost a film quality.
Okay. Why?
Makes it very atmospheric. There's a percussion there that isn't really a count in or a countdown for an old school film, but it does sound like it. And things like this really reel people in when you listen to them. And yeah, that about wraps everything up. There's a little bit of an outro here. Just sends you off smooth into the next track. One last thing I would like to talk about is drum break processing. It's because that's one of my favorite things to do. I use drum breaks a lot in my music, and I think it's important to touch on how people use them. Drum breaks are crazy. They are a million different sounds that are maybe pre-mixed or fitting a totally different mix, or maybe even all over the place, and you just need to wrangle them all. So as you can see here, I was super aggressive with them. Things like the EQ, you know, say you've got two snares hitting at the same time, one's in a break, one's not. You just have to make a call there. You've got to make a decision which one you want to ring through. In this case, I definitely chose the drum break itself. There's a little bit of a compressor here to catch peaks at the very beginning and a lot of sidechain at the end, which gets it out of the way of this other kick drum. This kick drum's a great example of me making a choice to put the other one at the forefront. You can see that kick just shoves everything out of the way. There's reverb again, classic, and a little bit of compression. Usually I really punch the compression on these drum breaks because I think they're all over the place and you've got to just shove them into a box that maybe they don't want to fit in. But in this case I was able to wrangle it pretty quickly. There's also a respace which helps build tension. That's got a character layer which sounds like this. Looks like this, very phasey, very garagey almost. Ties back to that theme of super old school rave sounds. There's a low end that sounds like this, which is great because it allows you to control each of those separately. So that about wraps up the track breakdown. Thanks for tuning in, and thanks for streaming Afters as part of We Are Friends Volume 9. Feel free to reach out on Twitter if you have any questions. I'm very active over there. And I hope you've enjoyed the video.